What is up, sports bettors? NFL Week 3 is officially in the books now that Monday Night Football is over. Now we move on to Week 4. We have a pretty awesome slate here in Week 4. Tons of big games. We'll have to see what happens. Number one, of course, the Thursday night game between the Dolphins and the Bengals is going to be a fun one. But all I'm going to be doing in this video is giving you early bets to place for the NFL Week 4. Of course, getting in on lines early can be a really good way to beat the closing line and beat it by a decent amount. I did one of these videos last week, a couple of these videos actually last week. One of the plays, my biggest play of the week was the Ravens money line. That one ended up hitting, which was very nice. So definitely make sure to hop on these early NFL bets. Make sure to subscribe to the OddsJam YouTube channel to get all of my picks, to get all of Alex's picks moving forward. I do a bunch of weekly stuff on the YouTube channel. Number one, I give out 4 best bets, 1 lock, 1 underdog, game prop, and player prop. Had a really good first 2 weeks, was 6-2 with over 400 in profit. Last week was a rough week. My first bad one went 1-3. So total picks on these 4, $230 roughly in profit, 7-5 overall. Also on the OddsJam podcast, Sweat the Bet, which you can subscribe on any of your podcast platforms. Just Sweat the Bet, presented by OddsJam, hosted by me and Andrew Kim, aka the Parlay Doc. We each give out 3 picks. Last week I went 1-1-1. That 49ers moneyline one really hurts because I had it as my Sweat the Bet picks and my lock for my 4 sharp bets. So them blowing that game hurt. But overall, 6-2-1 on my 9 Sweat the Bet picks. So still going well there. Survivor, still alive. Underdog, not going so hot. Overall record 3-6. But last week I went 2-1. Anyways, for this video, like I said, locking in some early bets. Of course, my betting process always starts with going on OddsJam, using their positive expected value betting software to find betting opportunities that have an edge over the sportsbook you place the bet at. An unfortunate reality of sports betting is that sportsbooks generally have the edge over you. They charge a vig to different books, the different prices, different prices, not books. The books charge the vig, and that's how they make their money. They essentially tax the odds themselves. So if you think of a standard -110 odds each way, like -110, -110, it's pretty standard. If you think about the math behind that, if someone bets the over at -110, let's say they bet $100 and that bet loses, they lose all 100. Let's say someone bets the under and that bet wins, they only profit 90 because that's how the odds work. So that $10 difference, that's how the sports books make their money. So it's important to make sure that you're constantly beating the vig, and then you will be profitable in the long run. And that's exactly what OddsJam helps you do. They provide betting opportunities in which you have the edge over the sportsbook. In this case, the bet that I am looking at, the very first one, is this first half total between the Texans and the Chargers. And we're looking at the under 23 -110 on Caesars. So to talk about the math behind it, the OddsJam line with the vig removed prices this at about -114. Now this number, this no vig odds, is really important. I mentioned what the vig is and how it's the juice that sportsbooks price odds. One really cool thing that OddsJam does is it just collects all this data. It's constantly monitoring every sportsbook, all the odds, all the markets, collecting all this data, and then backtesting that to determine which sportsbooks are the quote-unquote sharpest in terms of pricing odds, which books do the best job at pricing odds. And then once that determination has been made, weighted average is applied to all the different sports books, obviously weighting the sharper ones heavier. Then once that all has been calculated, the algorithm has figured all that stuff out, then they remove the vig of all those sports books, the weighted average, to determine what the no vig odds is of all of these sharp books. So if you can beat the no vig line of all these sharp books, you will be profitable in the long run, which is exactly what is done here. So this -114 is what all the smart sports books think that this should be priced at. We can get it at Caesars at -110. So I really like this one. I'm going to put a full unit on this one, under 23 first half points in the Texans versus Chargers game. That bet has been locked in. So I talked about the math in terms of the difference between these two numbers. The next thing that I want to talk about is this EV percent here, what you see here, the 1.73. this can essentially be viewed as your profit margin, your expected profit margin for this bet. So I bet $100 on it. I could figure to make $1.75. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, right? It's just $1.75. Excuse me. A couple of things to keep in mind there. Number one, it's just one bet. So if you lock in all these bets, I mean, we see like 20 on the screen here, maybe more, maybe a little bit less. That 1.75 turns into 20, 25, something like that. It's also just one bet that will be realized on Sunday. So I will go to bed on Sunday knowing that I have realized the profit of all these different bets. Now, your next question is, how can you have an expected profit of a bet that hasn't occurred yet, a game that hasn't occurred yet? It's a good question. That's why it's your expected profit, your theoretical profit margin. You will learn that over time, if you are tracking all of your positive EV bets, that your expected profit will start to equal your actual profit moving forward, which is why it's so important to use this and so important to track your bets, which you can do using OddsJam. If you just click this plus button, add the play, how much you put in. I put in $100. Now it adds it to your bet tracker and see the check mark there. Now the OddsJam tracks all this information for you. So that's why I like this one from like a math perspective. I also like betting on opportunities in which you are clearly getting an outlier when compared to all the other sports books. So in this case, the Caesars line at -110. Look at where all the other books price this at. DraftKings -140, the over at +105, heavily favoring this under. Fox Bet, same thing, the under at -133, the over at -105, heavily favoring this under. And then the OddsJam line / Pinnacle, sharpest sportsbook in the world, same thing, favoring the under. And then if you open up the event page in a new tab, it pulls up where every sportsbook is pricing this play at. And what we can see that there are some other books that price this total a half point lower. In the first half, these half points make a wild difference. So PointsBet, FanDuel, looks like the actual true line of DraftKings has this at 22, actually, if you look at it, a full point lower. And then the OddsJam line has this true line at about 22 as well, a full point lower than what we got it at 23. So taking advantage of more opportunities like this, not only is it positive expected value just from a math perspective, but it's also an outlier in terms of how you look at where every other book prices it. And betting on outliers like this, betting on positive expected value, betting opportunities is how you will be profitable in the long run. So this is the first bet, Texans versus Chargers, first half total under 23 points. I really like this one. The next one that I wanted to lock in is this Patriots plus 10.5 at +100. The no vig line has this at -102. So again, the gap between these two numbers is where you get your positive expected value from. Similar logic here in terms of look at where every other book prices this at. So Caesars has it at +100. No other book except for PointsBet is giving you anything below -110. And PointsBet still thinks it's a 50-50 shot each way at -107 each way. They just have a little bit lower vig. But other books, DraftKings, Tipico, BetOnline, and Bookmaker, two of the sharpest sports books in the world, along with the Pinnacle line, they all think that the Patriots covering this number is the more likely scenario based on how they're pricing their odds. But we can get it at +100 on Caesar. So this is another bet that I think is really good. I'm going to go ahead. This one I'm just going to put a half unit on. Patriots plus 10.5, just going to be a half unit on this one. And I like this one for football reasons. I think that the Packers, their offense really hasn't looked good aside from a decent running game in this game 2 against the Bears, which not that impressive. Packers offense hasn't looked that good. Patriots defense did just get shredded by Lamar Jackson, but what he did to them isn't something that Aaron Rodgers can do to them just from the perspective of his legs. And Patriots generally do have a good defense. And I think that they're getting a little bit undersold because the injury to Mac Jones. Brian Hoyer can come in and he will be completely fine. He's not the best quarterback in the world, but he will be completely fine. So I like the Patriots to keep this close. It's also really important getting it above this +10 number when you're backing an underdog. There are certain numbers that are really important to get above or below, depending on if you're betting on a favorite or an underdog. For an underdog, you want to get above 3. You want to get 3.5. You want to get above 7. You want to get 7.5. And here, you want to get above 10. You want to get to 10.5 because there are certain numbers. Obviously, a field goal is worth 3 points. Touchdown is worth 7 points. So there's certain numbers that are important to get above, which is exactly what we did here with the Patriots at plus 10.5. So this is going to be my second bet, $50 on the Patriots money line, Patriots plus 10.5 against the Packers. And then lastly, the last bet that I wanted to highlight, it's a slight EV at minus 110, minus 110.02, but it's still a good bet. So even though some of these bets have lower EV percents, that doesn't mean they should just completely be avoided. There's some that I really like, and this under is one of those ones that I really like. Same logic here. Every other book is telling you that the more likely scenario is that this goes under 44.5, except for WynnBET, which has it at about a 50-50. I like how it shows you the average odds here, price it at minus 119. And then if you look at this in a new tab, you look at where every other book prices it. Actually, every other book prices this total at 44 or 43.5. WynnBET is the only one that prices it at 44.5. In other books, like Bookmaker, Sharpbook has it at 43.5. BetOnline, another Sharpbook, has it at 44. Pinnacle has it at also 43.5, agreeing with Bookmaker. So, and another thing that I like, some books that price it at 44, BetRivers, Pinnacle, think that the under is still priced at the more likely scenario. So getting this at minus 110 odds, I think is good value on WynnBET. I also like it for football reasons as well. Cardinals defense admittedly has been dreadful, but so has Baker Mayfield. These are two of the worst offenses in the NFL, just in terms of like advanced analytics. Like if you look at DVOA, other stats, both of these teams are bottom 10 in the NFL in terms of their offensive performance. So I need to just confirm my location, I guess. Perfect. And this bet has been placed. We are good to go. Under 44.5 in the Cardinals versus Panthers. And that is my third and final early sharp bet to lock in for this week's betting slate. If you're tailing these bets, I would love to hear it. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know you're tailing. Would also appreciate it if you could subscribe to the OddsJam YouTube channel. Make sure that you are constantly checking out, getting all of my best bets, all of Alex's best bets. And then if you wanted to listen to the podcast where we give a little bit more, it's more analytics and more analysis focused while also giving out picks. So if you want to subscribe to the podcast, would appreciate it as well. Sweat the bet. But that's it. So appreciate you guys watching and have a good one.